Good morning, everyone. Buenos días a todos. My name is Samuel Vilchez Santiago, and today I have the honor of being the Master of Ceremony for this press conference, Florida Venezuelans Urge a Pathway to Citizenship. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to hear from Venezuelan-American leaders, economists, and members of the community about the need for a pathway to citizenship to be included through reconciliation. Thank you all so much for being here, and thank you all to the co-sponsoring organizations and to the media who's present today and everyone who's made this event possible. Before we get started, I did wanted to say that we have the option of having translation live for those over Zoom. So to activate the Zoom interpretation, please click on the interpretation globe in the lower right side of your screen and choose the language in which you would like to listen, either Spanish or English. And then please mute the original audio. Bienvenidos. Para activar la interpretación de Zoom, por favor haga clic en el globo que dice interpretación en la parte inferior a la derecha de su pantalla y elija el idioma en el que desea participar, español o inglés. Por favor, silencie el audio original. Muchas gracias a todos por estar aquí. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce a friend of the Venezuelan community, Ariani Eduardo, who's the Interim Executive Director of the Impact Fund.
Thank you so much, Samuel. And yes, definitely a friend to the Venezuelan community, and the Venezuelan community is so dear to my heart. So it is a very proud moment for me to be here with you guys today. So like Samuel mentioned, my name is Ariani Eduardo, and I am the Interim Executive Director of Impact Fund, the Florida chapter of the American Business Immigration Coalition. Today is a really exciting day. We have Venezuelan-American leaders, economists, and business owners that will make the case as to why a pathway to citizenship will lead to economic growth and needs to be included in the reconciliation process because it is time. So today we will also release a poll conducted by Integrated Communications and Research that will show where Venezuelan stands on a pathway to citizenship for TPS holders as well. So without further ado, it is my true honor to introduce our Executive Director for the American Business Immigration Coalition, Rebecca Shee.
Thank you so much, Ariani. Good morning. My name is Rebecca Shee. I'm the Executive Director of the American Business Immigration Coalition. ABIC is a bipartisan coalition of 1,200 CEOs and employers across the country, from Texas to Florida, Arizona to Maine. Thank our ABIC Florida leaders, Mike Fernandez, El Cardenas, Leonard Board, William Diaz. Last night, the House Judiciary Committee successfully marked up the legislative text to legalize dreamers, farm workers, immigrants with TPS, and essential workers. As a bipartisan coalition, we strongly preferred bipartisan solutions. We have met with 41 Republican senators face-to-face, but despite many positive conversations, no Republican senator has stepped forward to co-sponsor existing standalone bills like the Dream and Promise Act or the Farm Workforce Bill. Reconciliation is going forward. Adding immigration is the only vehicle in sight. 1 in 4 Floridians are immigrants. Immigrant workers make up nearly 50% of Florida's agricultural industry, 32% of construction, 42% of healthcare and healthcare aides. Many of these immigrants have temporary protected status, thanks to President Biden. 300,000 Venezuelans and 95 Haitians are eligible for TPS. So what is TPS? Immigrants with TPS have legal status. They have a work permit. They are working legally and contributing. They have lived in Florida on average more than 10 years. They have US citizen children and spouses. So despite the strong economic and political support, despite being one of the largest immigrant states in the nation, 2 Florida senators, Rick Scott and Marco Rubio, are turning their backs on now legal immigrants. This is insanity. Partisan manipulation of immigrants is standing in the way of the most sensible solutions. So what today's poll of Florida's Venezuelan voters shows is that the electorate is way in front of the 2 Republican senators of Florida. It is a wake-up call to Senator Scott and Senator Rubio in particular that the key constituency that they count on as part of their election could be lost. The poll is a wake-up call to Republicans in general that swing states like Florida and their electoral future could be jeopardized by their head in the sand attitude. Senator Rubio recently said that citizenship for TPS and Dreamers is the absolute worst thing to do at this point. This is the height of hypocrisy because Cubans had benefited from the most generous immigration policies, and they've used this generosity to build an economic powerhouse in South Florida. Venezuelans will do the same, so will Haitians and Hondurans. So we urge Senators Rubio and Scott to support citizenship, and we urge Senate Democrats to include immigration reform in reconciliation. It is economically important, morally right, and politically smart. I'm honored to introduce Impact and ABIC board member Leonard Board, the founder of Sloan Capital and a proud Venezuelan American. Leonard?
Hi, my name is Leonard Board, and I'm a proud board member of the Impact Fund, the Florida chapter of the American Business Immigration Coalition. At ABIC and Impact Fund, we recognize the importance that immigrants represent to the fiber of our community and its economic well-being. This is why we promote and believe in supporting common sense immigration solutions that are economically necessary, politically smart, and morally correct. We strongly prefer bipartisan solutions. ABIC has met with 41 Republican senators, posted 52 bipartisan forums with Republican and Democratic senators to support a bipartisan deal. But despite many positive conversations, no Republican senator has stepped forward to co-sponsor existing bipartisan standalone bills such as the Secure Act, which would provide a path to citizenship for TPS holders. If reconciliation is going to move forward, adding immigration is the only vehicle in sight. Immigrant solutions are urgent, bipartisan, and belong in the budget reconciliation process. A path to citizenship cannot and should not be left behind. Reconciliation may be the last chance to do what we, the American people, want, and what our economy needs to continue the economic recovery efforts during this pandemic. If we fail to pass these immigration solutions now, we are at risk of losing over 800,000 DACA recipients, over 400,000 TPS recipients, and billions of dollars in economic and tax revenue contributions that are necessary to grow our economy. 2021 has to be the year to get immigration solutions across the finish line. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Ariani, Rebecca, and Leonard. Now we're gonna go with Maria Antonieta Diaz. Maria Antonieta Diaz is one of the Venezuelan leaders in the state of Florida. She's the president and founder of the Venezuelan-American Alliance. Thank you so much, Maria Antonieta.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity and thank you for being here. I'm founder and president of Venezuelan-American Alliance and also own a small business that for 21 years has benefited from the extraordinary workforce of Hispanics. In our company, we have 4 employees directly impacted by the TPS. One from Salvador who has more than 20 years with TPS and 3 Venezuelans who recently applied for the benefit. This implies that 60% of our employees will be beneficiaries of a path to citizenship and will allow them to continue contributing to the economy and give them the peace of mind of visualizing their professional and family life in the long term. According with the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, 4.7 million Hispanic-owned businesses contribute over $800 billion to the American economy every year. Latinos continue to launch businesses at faster rates than the national average across several industries, growing 34% over the last 10 years compared to just 1% for all other small businesses. according to the State of Latino Entrepreneurship 2020 research study from Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative. Like my business, more than 4.7 million Hispanic businesses, and therefore the economy will be benefit from immigration reform with a path to citizenship through reconciliation. As of August 3rd, 178,000 Venezuelans had applied for TPS, and we hope that with the extension of the registration period, more than 300,000 will take advantage of the benefit. About 70% live in Florida. Each of us has a family member or friend who will benefit from a path to citizenship. Therefore, the Venezuelan-American community in the state of Florida and its leaders are united behind including immigration reform with a pathway to citizenship through reconciliation, and are making a clear economic case for it. Poll results and voices from our community show that not only do Venezuelan in Florida support pathway to citizenship for TPS recipients, they factor whether or not to support an elected official in large part based on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria Antonieta, for your words and for your incredible leadership in this fight. As a reminder, we're going to be taking questions from the press at the end. So please, if you have any questions that are coming up throughout the program, please use the Q&A function in the Zoom to let us know those questions. Now we're going to hear from an economist, Ricardo Hausman. He's the director of the Growth Lab and professor of the practice of international political economy at Harvard University. And he was a former economist minister of Venezuela. Today, he can't join us live because he's currently teaching a class, but he has in a video because this is an issue that is close to his heart.
Hi, I'm Ricardo Hausman. I'm a professor of economics at the Harvard Kennedy School. I've been here at Harvard for 21 years. I've been an American citizen for the last 13 years. I'm from Venezuela. I know Venezuela. I've studied Venezuela. I followed Venezuela closely. I know all the incredible human capital the country has built over the last century. And I know the catastrophe that the country has undergone. I know the potential contributions that Venezuelans can give to the world, and especially to the countries that host them, now that they're living through this catastrophe. I lived in the US since 1994. That is 27 years. I've only been a citizen for the last 14. I know the difference. You feel, if you're only a Venezuelan citizen, you have essentially no rights, no citizenship rights. As simple as getting a passport, being able to move around, but having the defense of a state that protects you. So I urge you, with all my heart, give Venezuelans that are currently under temporary protection a path to citizenship. It'll be good for them, but it will be even better for the US. It will allow them to contribute fully to this great nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Hausman. And now we're going to hear from another Venezuelan economist, Danny Bahar, who's a senior fellow at the Brookings Institute.
Good morning. I am a researcher. I'm an economist who has been researching the gains from migration historically and today in the US and around the world. And it should be obvious by now, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic, how important are immigrants to the US and to the well-being of all Americans. In the US, for instance, the American Community Survey shows that by 2018, 1 in every 4 physicians and 1 in every 6 nurses were foreign-born. The number of immigrants who are fundamental workers who help us bring our foods to the table or to our home, and who helped all these engineers and all these doctors to continue to function, a substantial part of them are immigrants, as we know. And more broadly speaking, the numbers are very precise and very clear. Immigrants are only 15% of the US population, but they represent 25% of all entrepreneurs. They create jobs at a faster rate than American entrepreneurs. 43% of all Fortune 500 companies as of 2017 were founded or co-founded by immigrants or the children of immigrants. And the truth is that TPS is a great step. It's a great step to allow immigrants, Venezuelans, and from other nationalities to integrate and contribute. But it's just not enough. To assure a deep integration, to assure that people can really reach their full potential and contribute to the economy, to assure that immigrants can contribute to the livelihood of all Americans, we need certainty. They must have certainty that they're going to be able to stay in this country for the long term, because just with certainty, they're going to be able and motivated to invest in themselves, to invest in their children, to invest in their kids, to invest in their families. And certainly the most important aspect to ensure economic success is certainty and is investment. And therefore TPS is a great step, but it's not enough. And perhaps the most important thought is that the US is not only doing a favor to TPS holders if the US were to grant permanent status, it's doing a favor to the US citizens and to the US itself, because that's what's going to assure that these wonderful immigrants who are very entrepreneurial and very devoted are really going to reach their full potential, and it's going to create a win-win-win situation.
Thank you so much, Danny. And as you mentioned, this is not only the work that we're doing is not only for the Venezuelan community, but also for other TPS holders, DACA recipients, essential workers, and farm workers who will also be benefited from the inclusion of immigration reform in the budget reconciliation process. Now, I would like to introduce Norma Camero Reno, who's the former president of Casa de Venezuela Tampa and a Republican activist, to share her remarks.
Good morning, everyone. I cannot see my face yet. Okay. Today, I'm here to speak as both a committed Venezuelan-American leader as well as a Republican activist.
Ms. Norma, you have to turn on your video. There you go. Thank you.
Okay. Like many leaders in the conservative movement, I am convinced that the beauty of our country is best exemplified by the values of freedom, hard work, and inclusion that immigrants seek on a daily basis. During his last speech as president, President Ronald Reagan said, "We lead the world because unique among nations, we draw our people, our strength, from every country and every corner of the world. Thanks to each wave of new arrivals to this land of opportunity, we are a nation forever young, forever bursting with energy and new ideas, and always on the cutting edge, always leading the world to the next frontier." And I couldn't agree more. Thousands of Venezuelans and other immigrants have brought and continue to bring their talents, education, and culture to enrich our American economy and society. They seek the same American dream that generations of Americans have utilized as a beacon of hope as they make our country great. They are escaping murderous dictatorial regimes and failed socialist countries, and most importantly, through their hard work and perseverance. They are strengthening our American economy. Immigrants with TPS earn close to $900 million in household income and pay over $90 million in state and local taxes every year. So, in this moment of truth, as Americans, I believe that we must seek a permanent solution That is why, as a conservative leader and Venezuelan-American, I support a pathway to citizenship for TPS holders through reconciliation. It is time to get it done. Thank you very much, and God bless us.
Thank you so much, Ms. Norma Camero. Now we're going to hear from TPS recipient and small business owner, David Villavicencio, and then we will be hearing from Dr. Gamarra to share the poll results. Thank you. David.
Buenos días. Mi familia y yo llegamos a los Estados Unidos desde Venezuela en el año 2014, muy esperanzados de crecer económicamente y asegurarle un futuro seguro y próspero a nuestra hija, quien apenas tenía 3 años para ese momento. Rápidamente, apegados a la ley, solicitamos asilo político debido a los hechos que nos ocurrieron en Venezuela. Hoy, 7 años después, todavía estamos esperando una entrevista de parte de las autoridades de inmigración para evaluar nuestro caso. 7 largos años donde nuestro día a día ha sido la incertidumbre de no saber qué va a ocurrir con nuestro estatus migratorio o qué ocurrirá con nuestra hija, quien ahora tiene 10 años y no conoce otra realidad que no sea la americana. Sin embargo, en estos 7 años, a pesar de la incertidumbre, hemos construido nuestro propio sueño americano. Mi esposa, quien es odontólogo en Venezuela, logró su camino a ser higienista dental, y mi hija incluso nada en el US Swimming Team. Al igual, en el 2017 yo creé una pequeña empresa acá en el sur de la Florida que se encarga de vender comida a restaurantes, incluso a todas partes del país. Esta pequeña empresa no solo ha ayudado a nuestra familia, sino que también hemos construido y hemos ayudado a construir el sueño de otros, generando empleos para inmigrantes y americanos por igual. Como pequeño empresario, mi principal obstáculo ha sido no contar con un estatus migratorio permanente. La falta del mismo nos complica la posibilidad de crecer porque muchas veces necesitamos pedir un crédito, necesitamos ser más confiables para el sistema y simplemente no podemos. Algo como comprar una casa para seguir construyendo nuestro hogar es prácticamente imposible. Mi preocupación es que en cualquier momento nuestro estatus migratorio puede terminar y tendría que dejar atrás mi negocio, el futuro de mi hija y el sueño americano de mi familia. Estoy seguro que un camino a la ciudadanía americana para empresarios beneficiarios del TPS, como es mi caso, y el de miles de personas de todo el país, representaría una oportunidad para seguir creciendo y generando empleos aquí en la Florida. Los Estados Unidos ha sido para nosotros el país de las oportunidades, pero es momento de seguir creando nuevas oportunidades, no solo para nosotros, sino para todos los venezolanos. Es hora de tener un camino hacia la ciudadanía. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, David. And now we're going to hear from Dr. Eduardo Gamarra. He's the co-founder of Integrated Communications and Research, professor at Florida International University, and he will be sharing today the poll results that, from the poll that has been put together by ABIC, Impact, and the Venezuelan-American Alliance. Dr. Gamarra.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you to share the results of these of this poll that was commissioned by your organization. I'm also a professor at FIU. Some of you know me from that. But this survey was conducted by ICR. And if we can go to the first slide, please, so that the poll is of 506 Venezuelans who live in the state of Florida. 66% of them, of the sample, are registered voters. About 34% are either unregistered or don't know if they're registered. The methodology is a mixed methodology that we've used, combining digital polling, web polling. We did mobile polling and email polling. We did not use social media to poll. So this is based, obviously, it's a random sample, representative of the state of Florida, with a margin of error of plus or minus 3.56. The results are basically as follows, right? And I want to go through this very quickly since we don't have much time. First of all, this is a sample that reflects what the census tells us about the Venezuelan population in the state of Florida. So there are more Venezuelan men than there are women. So the sample is balanced to reflect that. Also, in terms of income, you will see that the Venezuelan population, contrary to popular belief, is not extraordinarily wealthy, but in fact is really fairly well middle income, even pushing to low income. So that, I think, should tell us a little bit about some of the misinterpretation of data that we have about Venezuelans in the state of Florida. Next slide, please. Okay. I'm not going to go through all of the slides, but simply point out some of the findings with respect, basically, to what you're interested in. The question was, has the granting of TPS and the promise of a pathway to permanent status, has that increased your support for President Biden? And what we found, of course, is a fairly positive response there, that the majority of those interviewed say that, yes, it has increased their support for President Biden. And of course, the difference here is very, very, very significant in terms of those who say they are registered to vote and those who say they are not registered to vote. Frankly, from the perspective of the impact on U.S. politics, is those who are registered to vote whom you should be really focused on, and a good majority of them believe that their support for the president has increased as a result of the extension of TPS and just the promise of the possibility of a pathway to permanence. Next slide, please. Now, the other thing that we wanted to explore was, to what extent are some negative messages about immigrants affecting the way in which not only Venezuelans think, but more generally everybody else. And so this question, which relates to how COVID is being interpreted, as you all know, some politicians have said that COVID that has been increasing largely because of the arrival of immigrants through the border with Mexico. And so we asked Venezuelans this question, and as you can see, that a vast majority does not agree with that. And here it cuts across partisan lines, and it cuts across male and female lines, and so on. So this is fairly clear that Venezuelans are not being swayed by that argument. Next slide, please. We then asked, and this is related to voters versus non-voters. And again, you will see that while about 25% of those who are registered to vote say that COVID has increased because of immigrants coming across the border, the majority are not in agreement with that. This is only among registered voters. Next slide, please. And of course, again, this is a poll that doesn't represent a partisan point of view, but it was important to try to understand what the impact is of not supporting a pathway to citizenship or a pathway to permanence, and even the extension of TPS. And so the question that was asked specifically was whether Senators Rubio and Scott would be affected by going against the extension of permanence more than anything else. And as you can see from the data, right, Venezuelans say that they would not continue to support either senator if they were to oppose permanence. Still, 32% say that they would continue to support the senators. But I think there's a very clear-cut message here, right? And while more Democrats will stop supporting these two senators than Republicans, it still is a bipartisan message, it seems to me, to political leadership in Florida. Okay, and I'm not sure if there's one more. Yes, and so the final slide has to do with voter registration here, and as you will see here, again, among those who say that they are registered, the majority say that they would not support the senators were they to oppose the extension of permanence. And I think that that was the final slide. So thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to share this data with you, and thank you to your organization for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gamarra. We're going to be sharing the poll, the full poll with the members of the press after the completion of the press conference. We have one more speaker, and then we're going to be opening it up for Q&A. If you have any questions, you can start dropping your questions and using the Q&A function. But now we're going to hear from William Diaz. He's the president and founder of Casa de Venezuela Orlando, to share his remarks, and he will be our last speaker.
Okay, here we are. Thank you very much, and thank you all the team from ABIC, and also so happy to have a lot of my media colleagues today with us. Venezuelans are basically swing voters. Next month, I will be celebrating 32 years in the United States, almost 30 since I became a US citizen. And I've been following election behind election. And that's what I have seen. And that was what recently happened also. In the past, we support in Central Florida, the Venezuelan community support Senators Rubio and Senator Scott. Even some Democrats cross party lines and support Scott. Well, I just want to recall that this is a swing group of constituents, and the Venezuelans vote. Venezuelans are not like other communities that just miss the opportunity. No, we vote. And we are paying attention on what's going on in Congress. We're following, and most of the Venezuelans in social media ask questions, and you can see that they're following what's going on. The last conversation that I had with Senator Scott, he told me exactly, and I quote, Venezuelans help USA economy. They are hard workers and good citizens. So now it's a surprise that a senator saying this is so hard for him right now. Step forward and support what is a need for a community that he said he will love. He said he's been supporting. So it's we have here a speech that saying today that we try to help Venezuela, and that we have to get out of Maduro. But then when a large community like Venezuela needing the support to survive in the United States, to help to restore democracy in Venezuela, we cannot count with Senator Rubio or Senator Scott. So as the recent polls that Dr. Gamarra showed to us, 70% or a little bit over 70% will not support Rubio or Scott if they keep on that way to not give us a hand in the path to citizenship. And with the same feet and arms that I campaigned for Ray Scott in the past, I'd be glad to do it, but against Rubio and against Scott. Thank you very much for taking care of this.
Thank you so much, William, for your words. I wanted to take this time to thank all the co-sponsoring organizations that have made this event possible: the Venezuelan-American Alliance, the Business Immigration Coalition, the Impact Fund, Casa de Venezuela Orlando, Pulso, the Venezuelan Student Association of the University of Florida, Emprendedoras, Jovenex Florida, and Viva Plus. Thank you all who are in attendance. And now we will be taking questions from the media. If you're with the media, can you please type your question through the Q&A function of the chat? Please identify yourself as well as your network. También estaremos tomando preguntas en español. Por favor, déjennos saber si es necesario. And now we have a question from Sonia Osorio from El Nuevo Herald. La pregunta es para María Antonieta Díaz. The question is for María Antonieta Díaz. Please, can you repeat the number of Venezuelans that have already asked for TPS, applied to CPS, and tell us the source? Por favor, puedes repetir la cifra de los venezolanos que ya han solicitado TPS y decir cuál es la fuente. María Antonieta, if you can do it in English and Spanish, that'll be great.
Okay, the number is 178,000 as of August 3rd, and the source is USCIS. It's a public information that you can find in the USCIS page. El número es 178,000 al 3 de agosto y la fuente es la página de inmigración del US Immigration Service, así que pueden conseguirla allí, es pública. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Maria Antonieta. We have a question from Scott Powers from Florida Politics. What are the best estimates for the Venezuelan-American population in Florida and throughout the United States? And I'm going to send the question to William Diaz. Again, what are the best estimates for the Venezuelan-American population in Florida and throughout the United States?
Okay, just for the TPS, well, I say hi to Scott Power, a friend of mine. And I just want to say that there is 323,000 Venezuelans can apply for TPS, if that's the question that I want. In Central Florida, we have around, in the 5 counties of Central Florida, we have around 38,000 Venezuelan-American voters. And we have in Central Florida a total of 152,000 Venezuelan residents. Again, but of those 152,000, 38,000 are US citizens.
Thank you, William. And statewide, the number is about 500,000 Venezuelan residents and about 90,000 Venezuelan-American voters.
Sorry, but I forgot nationwide.
We're expecting that number to grow. Do we have any other questions from the press? It seems like not. Again, thank you all so much for attending this event, and thank you to everyone who made it possible. We're going to be having another event as ABIC, the American Business Immigration Coalition, at 1 p.m. today, and we ask that you join us. It will be live on Facebook, and for the members of the media who want to cover it, we'll also be allowing that. So thank you all so much for making this happen, and have a wonderful day.